Imagine standing on a sun-baked plain in ancient Mesopotamia. The air is dry, and the ground beneath your feet is cracked from the heat of the relentless sun. Suddenly, in the distance, you see something impossible. Towering above the desert is a lush green mountain filled with trees, flowers, and vines, cascading down terraces like waterfalls of color. Birds fly between branches. Water trickles over stone. It's cool and fresh in the shade of towering palms. You're in the middle of the desert, but it feels like paradise. You've just stepped into the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. But here's the mystery. No one knows where they are. Some say they never existed at all. Others believe they're hidden, buried, or were never in Babylon to begin with. And yet, they're one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. So how can one of the greatest wonders in history be completely missing? Tonight on Shadows Untouched, we journey into the past to uncover the truth behind the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, what they were, who built them, and why their very existence is one of the most puzzling mysteries of all time. The Seven Wonders. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon are one of the seven wonders of the ancient world, a list created over 2,000 years ago by Greek travelers and historians. This famous list includes the Great Pyramid of Giza, Egypt, the statue of Zeus at Olympia, Greece, the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, Turkey, the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, Turkey, the Colossus of Rhodes, Greece, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, Egypt, and of course the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Of all these wonders, only the Great Pyramid still stands today. But what's strange is this: we know where all the others were built. We have ruins, blueprints, ancient drawings, but the Hanging Gardens, they've never been found. Not a single stone. Not a single terrace, nothing. It's as if they vanished from history. What were the gardens like? According to ancient texts, the Hanging Gardens weren't just gardens. They were an engineering marvel. Greek historians described terraced levels like steps of a giant staircase. Exotic plants from across the empire, stone walkways wrapped in vines, a hidden system of irrigation that pumped water up from the river to the top level, waterfalls and fountains, shade provided by tall date palms and fig trees, a cooling breeze created by the moisture and height. The gardens were said to be 75 to 100 feet high, about the height of a modern 9-story building. The word hanging doesn't mean the plants were dangling from ropes. In Greek, the term used was kremastos, which actually meant overhanging, like a terrace or balcony garden. But here's what makes it stranger. Most of these descriptions come from Greek historians like Strabo and Philo of Byzantium, not from the Babylonians themselves. Who built the Hanging Gardens? There's a popular story, one you may have heard in history class. It goes like this. Around 600 BCE, King Nebuchadnezzar II, the most powerful king of Babylon, built the gardens for his wife, Queen Amytis. She was from the green, mountainous region of Media, modern-day Iran. When she married Nebuchadnezzar and came to live in hot, dry Babylon, she missed her lush homeland. So, to make her feel at home, Nebuchadnezzar built her a mountain of greenery in the desert, the Hanging Gardens. It's a beautiful love story. A man building a literal wonder of the world to comfort his homesick wife. But there's a problem. There's no Babylonian record of this event. None. And Nebuchadnezzar left behind plenty of inscriptions. He was known to write his achievements on stone. He bragged about his palace, his city walls, his temples, but not the Hanging Gardens. Not once. So if he built them, why didn't he say so? Where was Babylon? Before we dive deeper into the mystery, let's talk geography. Ancient Babylon was located in modern-day Iraq, near the city of Hilla and not far from the Euphrates River. In its prime, Babylon was the jewel of Mesopotamia. It had tall ziggurats, step temples, thick city walls so wide chariots could ride on top, grand palaces made of glazed blue bricks, the famous Ishtar Gate decorated with dragons and bulls, and most ancient historians agree this is where the Hanging Gardens were supposed to be. But when archaeologists excavated Babylon in the 19th and 20th centuries, they found no trace of gardens. They uncovered palaces, temples, even Nebuchadnezzar's inscriptions, but not a single structure that matched the scale or description of the Hanging Gardens. So either the gardens were completely destroyed and left no trace, or they were never in Babylon at all. The case of the missing wonder. How could something so massive, so impressive, just disappear? Let's look at the possibilities. Time destroyed everything. Some say the gardens were built, but over centuries they collapsed. Floods, wars, erosion, and earthquakes wiped them out. But here's the thing, Babylon has many ancient ruins that survived thousands of years. Why would this one wonder, the most majestic of all, leave no ruins, no drawings, and not even a clear record in local writings? It doesn't add up. The Greeks made it up. Another theory is that the Greeks invented the Hanging Gardens, that it was a myth or a romantic story passed around by travelers who exaggerated what they saw. But many Greek historians were serious scholars. They described the gardens with such consistency and detail that it seems unlikely they all imagined the same thing. They were real, but in Babylon. And this theory, perhaps the most intriguing, comes from a modern researcher named Dr. Stephanie Dalley, an Assyriologist from Oxford University. She believes the Hanging Gardens were real, but they weren't in Babylon at all. Nineveh, the real location? Nineveh was the capital of Assyria, Babylon's northern rival. Dr. Dalley discovered something incredible while translating ancient texts. There was a king named Sennacherib who ruled Assyria about 100 years before Nebuchadnezzar ruled Babylon. Sennacherib also built grand palaces. He wrote about beautiful terraced gardens. He described a system that used screws and aqueducts to raise water from the river to high places. And guess what? Sennacherib called his city a wonder for all peoples. His writings even described lush greenery, stone paths, and elevated terraces. Sound familiar? Even more convincing, archaeological digs in Nineveh, modern-day Mosul, Iraq, have uncovered massive canals, aqueducts, and a complex water lifting system that could have supported such gardens. This system matches the Greek descriptions more closely than anything found in Babylon. So maybe the Greeks got the story right, but the location wrong. Maybe what they saw or heard about was the Hanging Gardens of Nineveh, not Babylon. Could the Greeks have confused the cities? When Greek historians like Strabo, Diodorus Siculus, and Philo of Byzantium wrote about the Hanging Gardens, they never visited the sites themselves. They relied on stories passed down from travelers or earlier texts. Babylon and Nineveh were part of the same broad region, Mesopotamia, and at times their histories were deeply entangled. By the time many Greeks were writing about these places, both Babylon and Nineveh had fallen into ruin, and memories were already fading. So it's very possible the stories of Sennacherib's green terraces in Nineveh were mistakenly placed in Babylon, especially since Babylon was the more famous name. In fact, Dr. Dalley argues that the ancient Greek confusion combined with the lack of Babylonian evidence strongly suggests that the wonder may have never existed in Babylon at all. Why does this matter, you might ask? Does it really matter where the gardens were built? It does. And here's why. The Hanging Gardens are not just a story about plants on terraces. They represent human imagination at its peak, innovation far beyond what we thought ancient people could achieve. The incredible effort and resources rulers would invest, not in war, but in beauty. And most importantly, they remind us that history is not always what it seems. We assume that facts are fixed, but the Hanging Gardens teach us that even the most famous things can be misremembered, misplaced, or misunderstood. They show us how myths, history, politics, and pride all blend together over centuries, and maybe they remind us to keep digging, literally and figuratively, for the truth. What happened to the gardens? Whether the Hanging Gardens were in Babylon or Nineveh, one thing is certain: they're gone now. But why? Historians point to several reasons. War and invasion. Both cities were attacked many times over centuries. Nineveh, for instance, was destroyed in 612 BCE by a coalition of enemies. Earthquakes. The region is seismically active. Massive structures could have collapsed and been buried. Flooding and erosion. River-based cities suffered from natural disasters that could wash away gardens, especially over thousands of years. Recycling of materials. In ancient times, stones from old buildings were often reused for new projects. Over time, traces of grand structures could vanish completely. Even worse, some ancient sites were later built over or looted, leaving little behind. It's possible the Hanging Gardens were real, majestic, and even visited by people like Alexander the Great, but then slowly faded, stone by stone, into dust. Have we found any clues? While no confirmed ruins of the gardens have been discovered, several clues support Dr. Dalley's theory. Cuneiform tablets from Nineveh mention elevated gardens and watering systems. Stone channels and screw-like water devices have been uncovered that match ancient descriptions. Detailed records from Sennacherib's reign speak of a marvel for all nations, clearly a structure built to impress the world. And although we haven't found a structure labeled Hanging Gardens, the existing evidence is enough to reignite interest in Nineveh as the true location of the lost wonder. Could it be that the gardens were real all along, just in the wrong place? Why are we still so fascinated? What is it about the Hanging Gardens that keeps drawing us in? Perhaps it's the contrast, a lush paradise in the middle of the desert, or the mystery. How can something so big vanish so completely? Maybe it's the romance of a king building a mountain of beauty for his homesick queen, or the sheer audacity of the project, defying nature, time, and gravity to create something magical. Whatever the reason, the Hanging Gardens remind us of something deeply human. We are builders of beauty, even in harsh places. We crave green, cool spaces. We long for wonder, and that's why their mystery lives on. Could we rebuild them today? Here's an interesting thought. Could we, with all our modern machines, actually recreate the Hanging Gardens today? Technically, yes. With steel pumps and climate control systems, we could build vertical gardens in the desert. In fact, some modern architects are already experimenting with green skyscrapers, where vegetation wraps around tall buildings. But no matter how advanced our technology gets, it's hard to recreate the awe the ancient gardens must have inspired, because it wasn't just the plants or the height, it was the setting, the impossibility, the idea that in the heart of a burning desert, someone once created a living dream, a wonder untouched by time. So, where are the Hanging Gardens of Babylon? Were they ever in Babylon at all, or did the wonder lie in Nineveh, hidden for centuries under stone and sand? We may never know for sure, but here's what we do know. Somewhere in ancient Mesopotamia, over 2,500 years ago, someone built something extraordinary, something so beautiful, so advanced, and so unforgettable that even today, we're still searching for it. And that's the magic of history. It lives in ruins. It whispers from ancient texts, it flows through forgotten rivers and broken stones, and every once in a while, it blooms again in minds like yours. So as we close today's journey into the mysteries of the Hanging Gardens, remember, sometimes not finding something makes it even more wondrous. And perhaps, just perhaps, some wonders are meant to remain untouched. If this journey through ancient Mesopotamia, vanished marvels, and unanswered questions has left you curious and hungry for more, then don't forget to subscribe to Shadows Untouched, where we uncover history's deepest secrets, one mystery at a time. Like, share, and comment below. Do you think the Hanging Gardens ever existed? Were they in Babylon or Nineveh? Let's get lost in history together.